Looking for a cosmic adventure like no other? Zatswan, Multiversal Guardian is a high-stakes comic book journey through the multiverse with stunning art and an unforgettable hero. Get your copy today in ebook and paperback formats. Link in the description.
Hello everybody, this is Neil Allen, the creator of Zatswan Multiversal Guardian, the cosmic superhero comic which you can purchase on Amazon in e-reader and also a copy like this, paperback format. And speaking of cosmic stuff, we're actually going to be talking about Star Wars today. The actor who plays Finn in the, John Boyega, who plays Finn in the sequel trilogy, has made some pretty provocative comments that are kind of going, that are, doing the rounds. And I thought that I would throw my own 2 cents in here. Let's get right into what he says. He says, "Let me tell you, Star Wars always had the vibe of being in the most whitest elite space. It's a franchise that's so white that a black person existing in it was something." He told this to Entertainment Weekly, by the way. And he goes on to say, "You can always tell it's something when some Star Wars fans try to say, well, we had Lando Calrissian and had Samuel L. Jackson. It's like telling me how many cookie chips are in the cookie dough. It's like they just scattered that in there, bro. They're okay with us playing the best friend, but once we touch their heroes, once we lead, once we trailblaze, it's like, oh my God, it's just a bit too much. They're pandering." And, so basically, I watched a Star Wars Theory video where Star Wars Theory actually had a very strong reaction to this. He was pretty offended by the comments that John Boyega made. And the Star Wars Theory feels that, yes, Finn, the character, got screwed over, but John Boyega should be directing his ire towards Disney, who actually screwed him over, instead of just claiming that the fans are racist. So we have kind of two different sides here, and that's one of the things that kind of made me want to throw in my own 2 cents. Since this is kind of a racial thing, and I am a mixed person, I do have kind of an interesting perspective on this, because there is that like white perspective that not all, of course, but a lot of white people likely have. What are you doing talking about Star Wars being racist? We've had black characters. That's kind of what like Star Wars Theories is saying or alluding to. And then we have kind of that more black perspective, which of course not all black people have this perspective, but I know many will. It's like, there's no place for us in this stuff. It's like the whitest stuff. And anytime if we do come in with a character of consequence, all of a sudden we get all this racist, stuff thrown at us and thrown at the character. Okay, and then it's like, what's my perspective on that? First, let me address, I have thoughts that I can say to both sides, actually. First, let me address that Star Wars Theory viewpoint. First of all, no, characters like Mace Windu really aren't good enough, and they aren't cool. Mace Windu's like a side character who's a prick, and he's basically just there to better explain why the protagonist, Anakin Skywalker, turned evil, because Mace Windu kind of nudged him in that area. I think more than anyone, Mace Windu's meant to represent that Jedi that's like against Anakin. You know what I mean? And at Lando, he's just a character that's in the tapestry of Han Solo. Maybe Lando could have been something if Harrison Ford didn't return for Return of the Jedi. Maybe there would have been more of a role for Lando Calrissian to really do something great. But as I see it, he just wasn't a character of much consequence. Like, he's a character, like Han Solo's really awesome. Han Solo has, the ship. Han Solo has the Wookiee. Han Solo got the girl. Han Solo has this interesting tapestry of other characters around him, like Boba Fett and Lando and Jabba the Hutt. Yeah, Han Solo's awesome, but Lando, he's just a character in there with the Han Solo characters as I see him. So nothing that I'm gonna like be bouncing up and down about. Super happy about Lando, although he's okay. I don't have anything against him per se. So, no, I wouldn't say those characters are good enough. And I know this is a difficult thing to understand when you're not faced with these problems of essentially never of being in these shoes where you just never get characters. You rare I won't say that because that's not fair, but you rarely get characters that really that represent you just visually, even that are actually characters of consequence. And I will say this, it's kind of it's rare you get characters in genre fiction, like in science fiction and fantasy, that are doing, that are involved in that are like black or something, that are characters that actually really matter. And it seems that when that does happen, there is predictable pushback. Like when those characters start mattering more, or they start becoming the main character in a franchise that typically does not have them as the main character, like Star Wars, Doctor Who, um, stuff like that, like Game of Thrones universe, A Song of Ice and Fire, things like that. When they start taking on bigger roles, they predictably run into like backlash from white fans about how this is pandering. And what they're really saying is that it's not pandering to them. They're the ones who are used to being pandered to. They're the one, they like being pandered to, and they want to keep it that way. Um, that is a real thing, and Star Wars Theory was kind of downplaying that, but I wouldn't downplay that. It's a crap storm that they run into, but it also leads me to what I would probably say to John Boyega, because I'm not like completely on like both of these people's side, like just one side. It's like, yeah, like preach. I'm not really like that. I think both have valid points. I see where both are coming from, and I understand actually the frustrations of both. Um, with John Boyega, I understand wanting to let off steam, and he's just, relating his experience, being involved in Star Wars, and and that makes sense. What I would say though about John Boyega is he's going about things not quite the right way. I know he said that he said something along the lines of, I hope that this can kind of shed light on a situation, like maybe my circumstance can help things in the future some kind of way. I don't even think that's the right way to go about it. Um, so, and this is kind of a deep thing, like towards black people in general, and the complaining and the I understand the wanting to blow off steam, but one thing that needs to be realized is that white people are not necessarily going to see to your needs. And no matter, you can complain about your less than fortunate circumstances until you're blue in the face, but the only ones who are going to uplift you out of that is you. So that goes back into like Zatswan here, what I produced. I understand unmet needs. I understand like needs not being met. I understand how frustrating that is. And yeah, there was a time when I was like on message boards complaining about I wasn't seeing what I wanted in superhero comics. Why am I never really satisfied with this? Why is it always a problem for people who want to see what I want to see? Why is it always a problem for us to see that? I'm seeing that even now with what's going on in Green Lantern core comic books, which I've made videos about, the relationship between Green Lantern and Hawk Girl, and how it's being brought over from the cartoons and the comics. And there's all this pushback against it. Like, oh my God, like, I can't believe they're doing this. And yeah, so anytime we want to see what we want to see, it's always some kind of big problem. Like, if we really get what we want, there's going to be pushback. And I'm like, this isn't, it doesn't bother me that nowadays it's kind of funny to comment on and it's kind of interesting, but do I get bothered by this or this circumstance? No, because I think I've realized that essentially different people have different needs, different people want to see what they want to see, different people have different preferences, and um then that's good. See, what the trade publishing world, like books and also things like manga, realize is that like they realize that like there is no right, there is no wrong. There's just people with different preferences, maybe due to different backgrounds or just due to just the way their brains are wired. It's just they like what they like. Certain things they see it, they get stimulated. Other things don't do anything for them. They some people value this certain thing a lot. Other people place no value on that whatsoever. Um, like books, manga, they realize that, and they don't try to make everything appeal to everybody because that's a losing game. So, okay, is Star Wars like a super white franchise? Yeah, probably. Is there anything wrong with that? No. Does Star Wars have an audience that it built up over decades? Certainly. Um, do I think it's a good idea to try to rock the boat on that? Not really. I think that you can do it in ways in which the audience isn't as vehement as they got, and I would put that at the feet of Disney. Um, but what I would say is like you're always probably going to deal with that, if you're like looking for another type of character in the lead, like a black character, like with Finn. You're always going to deal with that pushback from the fans of Star Wars or the fans of whatever. What I think is the way to go is to see to your own needs. If this is important, if this representation and stuff is important enough to you, you have to see to that. Then that's why I created this. And am I feeling a lot better about the situation? Definitely. Certainly not feeling near as powerless or near as like unsatisfied, like I never get what I want. No, if you got a problem, if your problem is big enough, you fix that problem. Like if there's a landmass here, a bunch of water here, and another landmass here, and you're over here and you want to get over here, you solve your problem. You build a bridge. You can't just wait and complain for somebody else to build that bridge to you. You have to actually contribute and solve your own problems. The complaining, I understand wanting to blow off steam, but just from a pragmatic point of view, you have to realize that won't get you anywhere. It's just going to annoy people, which maybe you don't care about that, and okay, but and it's just going to probably like make your blood pressure go up. But is it going to have any like real practical benefit? No, because these companies, I mean, even if they try to satisfy you, they're probably crap at that, and they're probably going to end up not really satisfying you anyway. Um, you have to see to your own thing. And also, another thing, too, when you do find something that looks like it's like what you want to see, you need to support that. Like if it comes around, you need to actually say, hey, I like this. Let me put some investment towards it so I can get more of that. And kind of get off this like this thing where you needed to have the Disney seal of approval, because Disney's, I understand that they got all this money, they got all this power, but how do you think, you get to that Disney position? Like you need to support stuff. You know what I mean? So, um, you're always going to be dealing like that with stuff like companies from Disney and franchises like Star Wars and um, things that have been long running franchises that have been historically, been mostly white spaces. I think that if it matters enough to you, and this goes to John Boyega too, I understand blowing off steam and just like relating your unfortunate experiences. But if it really matters to you, take those resources that you got and see about solving your own problems. Either making your own thing where you can be the type of hero that you want to be, or investing it in another thing that you believe in, that looks like it's the answer to your problems, and putting resources toward that so you can you know help get things going to where you're not having to deal with that stuff over there. So my whole takeaway on it is just don't be in a situation where you feel you got to deal with that stuff, because you don't. If it's not meeting your needs, if you're like, I see they're trying to do something over here, but it's still like Mace Windu's still not good enough for me, that's valid. Don't think that like if people are telling you you need to just be satisfied with this, that, you know, your feelings don't matter. Like, don't buy that. If Mace Windu's not good enough, Mace Windu's not good enough. And for me, he's not good enough. I never, you know, I was never watching Star Wars for Mace Windu or Lando. I mean, Lando's okay, but um, you know, they're not the heroes. They're like side characters. Um, the thing about it though is like, just realize that these people behind the scenes, these white people behind the scenes, are not, they're either probably not looking out for your needs, or they're not the best at accommodating your needs because they have a completely different perspective. And that's no fault of them. It's just, you know, their perspective and their background and their life experience. And yours is quite possible, and their values and yours are quite possibly very, very different. Um, so I would say contribute instead of complain, contribute and create and see about seeing to your own needs and taking care of your own problems, because waiting around for other people to do that, that's just, you're going to be frustrated indefinitely. I think with that, you might get little glimmers of what you want, but there's always going to be a consequence to that, like loads of fan backlash that you just get tired of seeing and dealing with, or going hand in hand with the fan backlash, this thing might only last this long, and then you're just left out in the cold again. So those are my thoughts about this. The thing about it too, like if I, a guy who's just by himself, can see to his needs and put together his comic book, yes, certainly like somebody like John Boyega, who has the platform that he does, you know, can do that too. So I would just encourage him to do that, and other, you know, fans and people who feel that they're not getting what they want, you know, either see to your needs or contribute to something that does, even if it's not made by Disney or, you know, Warner Brothers or DC or Marvel. But that's it for now. I hope that this you know, topic was interesting and the video was enjoyable. And if so, hit the like button and subscribe, and be sure to pick up my comic in the link below. And I will talk to all of you again very soon. Take care.